Malalim na understanding of governance and no-nonsense demeanor make him stand out.
That in line with the time-honored tradition of according courtesy to the office of the Vice President, I move to terminate.
Dante Dizon Marcoleta, ang pambansang simangot. He's the kind of public servant whose sharp legal mind is not afraid to challenge the status quo or face criticism when it means upholding what is right. Sabi ni Marcoleta, raiding the fund para tapalan ng budget gaps was not just short-sighted but downright irresponsible. And he had a point. Stop making people pay for your inefficiencies. Mapapasimangot ka talaga eh. Suddenly, Marcoleta's signature simangot makes sense. Sino matutuwa, di ba?
Meron po akong isinulong na 10 panukalang batas na ang tanging layunin ay ibaba ang kuryente sa bansang ito.
What he needs is a team to amplify his story and bring his ideas to the forefront. He may not have Chavit's deep pockets, but just the same, he has the goods. And it's about time his campaign made sure every voter knows it. I wanna be honest, hindi pa din ako makamove on sa desisyon ni Manong Chavit Singson to quit the 2025 senatorial race.
Hindi na po ako tutuloy sa aking kandidatura sa Senado.
I was gonna vote for him. I mean, it's not every day you find a candidate who brings both swagger and substance to the table. And Chavit had both in spades. Chavit 500. A bold, straightforward plan to directly give minimum wage earners 500 pesos a month for life without the middlemen and political fluff was nothing short of revolutionary. But here's the catch. It would not work unless all Filipinos were part of the financial system. Chavit understood that for direct aid to truly reach everyone, lahat ng Pilipino dapat may bank account. And that is why he championed Bangko ng Masa through VBank. Lahat ng Pilipino pwedeng magbukas ng bank account nang walang initial deposit walang maintaining balance at hindi kailangan ng kung ano-anong requirements.
Yun ang tutulong magpandar. Right now, our card is being powered by Union Bank. Katulong yung Bangko ng Masa na ginagawa ko ngayon.
It is a platform designed not just to deliver funds efficiently, but to bring financial inclusion to millions of Filipinos who remain unbanked. Ganda, di ba? Now, the heartbreak deepens when you look at the numbers. Chavit was on a meteoric rise in surveys, jumping an astounding 11.29 percentage points in the Tangere poll from November to December 2024. Pulso ng Pilipinas pegged his increase at 22.75 percentage points, the highest among all 66 candidates. And I am sure, kapag lumabas ang susunod na survey, tataas pa yan. Now, his surge did not just come out of nowhere. It was crafted in part by a stellar social media strategy. Chavit's team managed to humanize him for a new generation of voters while cementing his place in the minds of those who already knew him. They captured his old school angas, authenticity, the kind of unfiltered grit that cannot be faked. Now, Chavit is not just a man of vision. He's a man of action with a digital presence that turned him from a dark horse into a contender. And now, as we bid number 58 goodbye, I cannot help but think of another candidate who risks falling short without the same kind of push. Dante Dizon Marcoleta, ang pambansang simangot. Marcoleta is the guy who walks into a room, simangot in place, and leaves no doubt that he means business. He's the kind of public servant whose sharp legal mind
That in line with the time-honored tradition of according courtesy to the office of the Vice President, I move to terminate.
malalim na understanding of governance and no-nonsense demeanor make him stand out. But in a world obsessed with trending hashtags and viral moments, his substance often gets overshadowed by flashier candidates. Now, don't get me wrong. Marcoleta does not need to change who he is. What he needs is a team to amplify his story and bring his ideas to the forefront. Maybe like a lot of Filipinos, he first caught my attention during the ABS-CBN hearings.
Mawalang galang na po, Mr. Lopez. Pwede ba naming hilingin sa inyo na i-recite ninyo yung unang linya ng Panatang Makabayan? Unang linya lang. Congressman Sarate, baka gusto mo ng tulungan.
I take exception to the side comments of Congressman Marcoleta.
Baka lang gusto nyo pong tulungan.
I have my own time.
Iniibig ko ang Pilipinas.
Salamat po.
Mr. Speaker.
While others disliked him for his role there, Marcoleta stood out to me. Tanggalin natin yung PR machinery of a media giant like ABS-CBN. And you will see, he was not attacking for the sake of it. He was defending the Constitution and standing up for the people. I mean, come on. ABS-CBN had overstepped illegal boundaries, violating foreign ownership rules, evading taxes, and using PDRs or yung Philippine Depository Receipts to sidestep constitutional restrictions. Marcoleta held them accountable, even when it meant going against the prevailing public sentiment. It was an unpopular stand, but it was necessary. Much like Miriam Defensor Santiago's fiery defense of Chief Justice Renato Corona during his impeachment trial. Remember that?
Hindi natin susundin ang rules of evidence. Hindi ka pwede magdala mas kanong papel sa korte. I-authenticate mo. Kung hindi mo hindi kung anong authenticate, di huwag kang abogado dyan.
While the nation was quick to brand Corona as guilty, Miriam questioned the hearsay evidence and political maneuvering that defined the trial, steering the conversation back to the principles of due process.
No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
And the rule of law.
There will be a uniform rule of law, not the rule of men or of people who bribe judges and other arbitrators in litigation.
Like the great Miriam Defensor Santiago, Marcoleta is not afraid to challenge the status quo or face criticism when it means upholding what is right. Now back to current events. Let us talk about the PhilHealth budget, or the fact that it got zero subsidy for this year in the budget. Ang sabi ng mga mambabatas, dahil may 600 billion peso reserve funds ang PhilHealth, okay lang na wag sila bigyan ng budget. Marcoleta's stance on PhilHealth's reserve funds is worth the listen.
Hindi talaga tama. Pangalawa, hindi lamang yun. Paano ngayon yung batas na sinasabi na merong share kasi yung PhilHealth sa tax na nanggagaling sa alcohol, sa beverages, at saka sa tabako? Paano kung isisiro mo yung subsidy, nasa na yung automatic na pinanggagalingan mula doon sa batas na yun? Kaya questionable yun. Sa mga tuwid, nakukompromise ngayon yung long-term investment natin sa tinatawag nating human capital. Ang pinaka-importante pa naman, mga kabataan natin, yung mga kabataan nating susunod sa atin. Paano kung hindi sila malusog? Ano mangyayari naman sa ating bansa?
While some lawmakers were quick to dismiss the fund as unused, Marcoleta made it crystal clear that there is a world of difference between a reserve fund and money just lying around waiting to be spent. A reserve fund is not idle cash. It is the backbone of PhilHealth, a safety net designed to keep the system running in case of emergencies or unexpected surges in claims. Calling it unused is like saying hindi mo kailangan ng fire extinguisher dahil wala namang apoy. Sabi sa batas, dapat may reserbang pondo ang PhilHealth na katumbas ng 2 years ng projected program expenditures nito. This is money contributed by hard-working Filipinos. Money meant to secure their healthcare and not to fill holes in someone else's fiscal mess. And Marcoleta did not just stop at saying, do not touch it.
Layunin nga ng batas, Joel, makover lahat kasi meron tayong universal health. Di ba? Pero sa nangyari, tingnan mo naman, pati yung nasa NEP na 74 billion, tinanggal. At hindi nga na-restore, di ba? Pagkatapos, ang katwiran nila sapagkat may 600 billion daw ang PhilHealth na unused. Hindi po unused yun Yun ay reserve Nakalagay sa batas, kailangan meron silang 2 taong reserve fund. ito yung fiduciary na responsibility ng PhilHealth sapagkat meron silang members na nag-contribute doon eh. Hindi mo pwedeng galawin yun. Kahit yun ay lumaki ng lumaki, na dapat namang lumaki, sapagkat para sa kanila yun, dalawang bagay ang pwede mong gawin. Kung malaking-malaki na, pwede kang mag-invest. Para lalong lumaki yun. At pagkatapos, kung malaki na, edi yung coverage ng kanilang, hindi na 30%, gawin mo ng 75%. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo dapat tanggalin yun eh.
Why not invest part of the reserves responsibly so they grow? Ganda, di ba? Or better yet, expand healthcare benefits o lawakan ang coverage para mas maramdaman ng mga members ang value ng kanilang contribution. It's the kind of practical, results-oriented thinking that sadly we do not see nearly enough of in Congress. This is exactly the kind of thing the late Joker Arroyo would have championed. Joker, sa mga hindi nakakaalam, treated public funds like they were more sacred than a congressional prayer meeting.
In 2011, around 55 billion in 2012 yung that. It was spent by DBM. Question, by what authority did they spend it? Hindi pwede yung basta gagastusin nila. Alam mo, when you spend money, yung public expenditures, you have always to have an authority. Hindi pwedeng you can just spend it. You can imagine kung gano'n ang practice. So in other words, pag may savings, pwede mong yung pambudbud pas kita nino because sasabihin mo lang it's under debt.
He would have nodded in approval at Marcoleta's fiscal discipline. Joker was frugal to the bone. Did you know that his Senate staff only composed of a driver, a secretary, and a legislative assistant? Kahit bodyguard, wala. Joker refused to touch pork barrel money.
Hindi ko nga tinatanggap yung PDAP. Bakit ko tatanggap yung PDAP? If I did not like PDAP, ay lalo na itong DAP na walang authority. You ask every senator. Walang alam din sa DAP eh. Ngayon lang nalalaman itong bagay, itong DAP na ito eh.
And here's Marcoleta doing the same with PhilHealth's reserve fund, making sure the people's money stays where it belongs. Tapos, maririnig natin ang mga leader natin, dinidefend ang zero budget ng PhilHealth. Mapapasimangot ka talaga eh. Suddenly, Marcoleta's signature si Mangot makes sense. Sino matutuwa, di ba? Pwede naman lawakan ang coverage sa atin, pero wag na lang. Suddenly, Marcoleta si Mangot feels like a public service announcement. When you see it, you know something is seriously wrong. But if you think that's bad, wait until you look at the energy sector. The Philippines has somehow managed to crown itself a champion of high electricity rates. We pay around 11 pesos per kilowatt hour. Sa Indonesia, ang kuryente, 550 per kilowatt hour. Sa Malaysia, 275. We are paying 2 to 4 times more than our neighbors. According to globalpetrolprices.com, electricity prices in the Philippines are 132% higher than the global average and a jaw-dropping 247% higher than the Asian average. It's as if someone decided, ooh, let's make paying for kuryente a national sport and let's go win! During the National Peace Rally of the Iglesia ni Cristo, Marcoleta pointed out that he had filed 10 bills to lower electricity rates. Hulaan ninyo kung ilan ang pinag-usapan sa Congress.
Meron po akong isinulong na 10 panukalang batas na ang tanging layunin ay ibaba ang kuryente sa bansang ito. Ikinalulungkot ko pong ibahagi sa inyo na kahit isa'y wala man lamang pong nadinig.
Zero. Nada. Kaya pala ganoon na lang ang pitik niya sa mga pahiring sa Kongreso sa mga kalaban ng administrasyon in the guise of inquiries in aid of legislation. And he's right. While Congress puts on its endless political soap opera, real solutions that could actually help all of us Filipinos are sitting in a filing cabinet somewhere.
Nung kinukonfirm namin ng Secretary of Energy, ako lamang ang nagtanong sa kanya ng 2 araw. This is on the record. Because I wanted him to do this. In-outline ko lahat ng dapat nating gawin para yung fundamental and underlying objective of that law should be achieved.
So,
Umuo siya lahat ng sinabi ko. 2 pahina yon.
Natupad
Kahit
po ba?
isa walang natupad.
Take systems loss charges, for example. The ridiculous practice of charging consumers for electricity that gets lost along the way.
At ang problema, Congressman, ilang kongreso nang nakalipas, ang dami pong panukalang batas tanggalin na systems loss pero walang nakakapagtanggal.
O, wala kasing gustong magsimula.
So,
Ako nagsisimula ako, ayaw nila akong tulungan.
Buti pang Lazada o ang Shopee, kapag nawala ang package mo while in transit, may refund. Hindi mo kailangan bayaran. Sa kuryente, kapag may sira ang system o may jumper o may leak ang insulators, mga factors na hindi naman natin kasalanan as consumers ay kailangan nating bayaran.
Bakit yung ninakaw na kuryente kasama kang nagbabayad?
Wala kami choice.
O kaya nga, pero ang bayad mo kasama yung system loss.
Sali, hindi
Tama.
dapat.
This is why Marcoleta proposed the System Loss Limitation Act o House Bill 160 to cut recoverable system loss rates from 14% for rural cooperatives and 9.5% for private utilities to just 1%. Ang sinasabi ni Marcoleta sa mga kumpanya, stop making people pay for your inefficiencies. Fix it yourselves.
Hindi ba napakataas ng ating kuryente? Ano ba yung pinakaunang layunin kung bakit natin ginawa yung EPIRA in 2001? 24 years ago, yung pinakaunang layunin, sabi niya, ensure the delivery of electricity to our people, reliable, quality, and affordable rates.
Then there's his push for real competition in the electricity market through reforms to the EPIRA and the implementation of ARCOA or the Retail Competition and Open Access. Parang ganito yan. Imagine, nasa palengke ka, bibili ka ng bigas, pero isa lang ang stall na nagbebenta ng bigas. If that is the case, pwede nilang presyohan kahit gaano kataas ang bigas nila dahil wala kang choice. Bibili ka sa kanila dahil walang ibang pwedeng pagbenta ng bigas sa palengke na yon. Now imagine, a new rule is made na pinapayagan ang ibang tindahan na pumasok sa palengke at magbenta ng bigas. Suddenly, you have choices. Pwede ka na magkumpara ng presyo, pumili ng tindahan na may best deal o mamili ng klase ng bigas na pasok sa budget mo. Dahil nagko-compete ang mga nagtitinda para piliin mo sila. Either bababaan nilang presyo o sisiguraduhin nila na maganda ang bigas nila. That is what ARCOA is like for electricity. Right now, most people can only get their electricity from one provider in their area. And these providers charge whatever they want. Sa ARCOA, pinapayagan ang mga malalakas kumonsumo ng kuryente katulad ng malls and factories or pwede in the future, villages and condos na humanap ng options para sa kanilang electricity provider. These companies will compete, which can lead to lower prices and better service. It's about giving people like us more control and better options. Imagine that. A world where electricity companies ang nanliligaw sa'yo. It's practical, it is smart, and it is long overdue.
Bakit hindi pinatutupad ng ERC yung provision ng ating EPIRA na meron doon na ARCOA? Ano ba yung ARCOA? Pakwenta mo yung aggregate na konsumo ng inyong gilids.
Oo.
Kapag ka nakwenta mo 500 kilowatts, pwede na kayong mamili ng retailer, not necessarily Meralco mag-supply sa inyo. Nasa batas yun eh. Ito yung mga paraan, sundan lang natin ang batas. Wala nga nagpapatupad, meron pang aggregation.
Now, you might expect me to compare Marcoleta to former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile. I mean, Enrile did, after all, have plenty to say about energy issues. But no. Let's save him for later. Instead, let's talk about another pambansang simangot, Panfilo Lacson. Remember Lacson's fight against pork barrel corruption? Like when he called out the 200 million pesos in hidden pork allocations in the 2011 budget, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. And then there was the double entry for the C5 road extension project in the 2008 General Appropriations Act or GAA. Ito yung construction ng CP Garcia Avenue extension galing sa SLEX papuntang Sukat Road sa Parañaque kasama ang right-of-way na nasa page 563 ng GAA that year. That same item was also found on page 646, but it was under a different name. Instead of CP Garcia, naging C5 na. Lacson went through budgets like a detective on steroids.
Marami, alam mo, for 18 years, kinalculate ng mga staff ko yung na-save namin from the national budget, 300 billion. Tatanungin ko halimbawa yung agency, hindi nyo alam ito, hindi kayo kasama sa plano, hindi makasagot. So tatanggalin ko ito. Nag-agree sila. Yes, Your Honor, pwede nyo tanggalin. That's the reason why, year in, year out, ang laki ng unused appropriation na hindi nagagamit talaga. Sayang yung budget.
He exposed padded allocations at mga ghost projects. Marcoleta brings that same energy to the energy sector. Kung si Lacson nang hahalungkat para matanggal ang pagpapakapal sa mga budgets, si Marcoleta naman ang hinahabol ay ang pagpapakapal sa ating electricity bills katulad ng charges para sa system loss. Just like Lacson demanding public funds be used for the people, Marcoleta insists that electricity reforms should benefit consumers, not just big companies. It's the same spirit of accountability, just aimed at a different battlefield. Now back to Enrile. I told you I'd come back to him. One of my all-time favorite Enrile moments was his iconic takedown of Sonny Trillanes during the 2012 Scarborough Shoal standoff discussions.
Well, your opposition should have been registered here because we are going to vote here anyway. And that was a caucus. We have already agreed on the timeline.
Do you remember that? Yung sinabi ni Enrile na si Trillanes nagkaroon ng backdoor dealings with China.
Senator of the Republic calling our secretary a treasonous person in a foreign land. He doesn't even know when treason arises.
He was ready. He had notes from Ambassador Sonia Brady. Trillanes, of course, trying his best to save face, naging defensive. He accused Enrile of spreading lies and turning the whole exchange into a dramatic spectacle. But Enrile was not fazed. Pinukpok niya ng pinukpok si Trillanes, methodically exposed the recklessness of Trillanes' action and even called it treasonous.
Trillanes wanted everything that was happening in Scarborough to be made secret so that it will protect the interest of the Chinese.
Trillanes was an amateur compared to Enrile, so he did what an amateur does when faced with a legend. He folded. It was a glorious scene. Now, does that remind you of something that happened recently?
Pinatawag ang dating Pangulong Duterte, pinatawag ng Quadcom. At ang ginamit na pamamaraan ay yung isinasaad sa saligang batas, inquiry in aid of legislation.
Particularly during the inquiry into the Vice President's confidential funds.
Joel, hindi naman ako tutol dyan sa pag-iimbestiga, pag-i-inquire ng ating confidential funds or intelligence funds. Bakit naman ako tinarget ninyo? Iisang opisina lang. Baka mamaya ang taong bayan, maisip nila, namumuliti ka tayo. Sabagat na may personal tayo. Kapag ka isa lang ang tinarget mo, at alam naman natin na ang tinarget mo ay kalaban sa politika sapagkat namumuuna yung presidential election nandiyan na sa horizon, mag-iisip ang taong bayan na politika lang ito.
While others grandstanded for the cameras, Marcoleta went straight to the Constitutional Court asking, is this inquiry really in aid of legislation or are we trampling on the mandate of the Commission on Audit? It is a question that silenced the room.
Bakit ka mag-iimbestiga, sabi ko sa kanila? Bakit ikaw magsusuri? Bakit ikaw mag-o-audit? Pwede ba ako ipaliwanag natin, Mr. Chair, kung tayo nakakagawa ka ako ng encroachment o baka we are usurping the very authority and mandate of the Commission on Audit?
Of course, the chair, clearly unprepared for a constitutional debate, muttered a token, noted,
Sinong maniniwala sa atin na tayo may karapatang gumawa ng batas para sa ikabubuti ng ating bansa? Ang sabi po ng chairman, noted.
hoping to move on, pero hindi sila tinantanan ni Marcoleta. He wanted to debate the constitutionality of the inquiry itself.
Inquiry in aid of legislation, nasa section 21 ng Article 6. Yun namang oversight, yun naman ang nasa Article 22. Pinaghahalo kasi nila eh. Yun ang problema, kaya ako sila sinasabihan na pagtalunan namin muna ito para sa ikaliliwanag ng lahat ng ginagawa namin.
Highlighting how the Supreme Court has set clear qualifications for inquiries in aid of legislation.
Merong limitasyon yan eh. Sabi niya, there should be a legislative purpose as one limitation. Sabi niya, yung pangalawa naman, you have to observe the rule of pertinency in questioning. It should be related to the subject matter. Pangatlo, you have to protect the rights of the persons appearing and affected by your inquiries. Ano yung essence and significance ng legislative purpose? Dapat meron ka nang nasa isip na there should be a contemplated piece of legislation eh. Kaya nagpapatawag ng hearing, meron kang gustong siyasatin siguro para makumpleto mo.
They must directly result in crafting or amending laws, not serve as fishing expeditions or political vendettas. Marcoleta pushed for accountability. Why single out the vice president when 28 agencies currently receive similar allocations and now totaling 10.14 billion pesos? The selective targeting was unfair and was blatantly political.
Mahigit pong 400 opisina at ahensya ng ating pamahalaan ang tumatanggap ng confidential funds. At sila din ay natatawagan ng pansin ng Commission on Audit. Bakit naman isang opisina lang ang pinipilit niyong usisain? Hindi ba masyadong halata namang pamumuliti ka yan?
And to ask the question, Marcoleta asked during that hearing, may ginawa bang batas from that inquiry? Like Enrile, Marcoleta has a way of making unprepared opponents fold, sometimes even walk out, as Trillanes did. And I'll say it, the Marcoleta we saw there has Senate President potential written all over him. Now back to why I thought of Marcoleta after Chavit's exit. Marcoleta and Singson might come from different worlds. One, a sharp legal mind, the other, a businessman with old school swagger, but they are cut from the same cloth when it comes to one thing: cutting out the middleman and putting people first. Marcoleta's Magna Carta for the Poor, a law that took 15 years to make, proves his belief that the government's role is not to micromanage poverty, but to provide Filipinos with the tools para makaalis dito.
Nung gumawa, wala pong sunset provision. Anong ibig po sabihin doon? Hindi naman kasi kinakailangan manatiling mahirap yung tao eh. At some point in his life, dapat makagraduate siya doon. Ako naniniwala, walang tao na gusto niya na palagi na wala inaayudahan sa habang buhay niya. Gusto niya yung pamilya niya dumating sa punto na maiwanan, makakalas siya doon sa panikalan ng kahirapan.
Access to education, healthcare, housing, at pagkain. That is why Marcoleta called out ayuda for what it's often become, a political circus. Ang tulong hindi dapat maging tool ng mga politiko para makascore ng pogi points. It is supposed to help the people. Marcoleta has openly criticized the way ayuda is distributed, delayed, or politicized. Para sa kanya, ayuda should be a bridge and not a trap, and he's been very loud about making sure it works as intended.
Ang ayuda talagang kailangan ng tao doon sa tamang pagkakataong dapat mong ibigay. Halimbawa, nagkaroon ng kalamidad. Na-displace yung tao. Talagang kailangan nyo yung kagyat na pagbigay ng ayuda.
Now we go back to Chavit 500, a universal basic income system designed to fix everything that's wrong with ayuda. Panghabang buhay na tulong sa lahat ng mahihirap na diretsyo nilang matatanggap sa kanilang bank account. At dahil sa V-Bank na isinusulong ni Chavit na magbibigay ng bank account sa lahat ng Pilipino, pwede na ang ayuda o tulong na walang middleman, walang delay at walang politika. No unnecessary service fees mysteriously vanishing along the way. Now, who would not want that? Singson has already laid the foundation with V-Bank, a system that ensures ayuda goes straight to the recipients without the usual mess. Now, all it needs is someone to champion something like Chavit 500 in the Senate. And if anyone can do it, it is Rodante Marcoleta. The Senate no longer has the likes of Miriam Defensor Santiago, Joker Arroyo, or Juan Ponce Enrile. And with the nature of campaigns today reliant on social media dominance, you have to wonder if even they would make it in the current landscape. Just look at the top 12 candidates in the surveys. It is a list that tells you one thing loud and clear. If you are not on the timeline, you are not in the race. Pambansang si Mangot is way behind in the surveys kahit ang ganda ng mga pinaglalaban niya. Chavit's campaign proved a dark horse can become a contender. His social media team took the vision, his angas, and his authenticity and turned it into a movement. If Marcoleta wants to secure his rightful place in the Senate, he needs to follow suit. Marcoleta is a candidate who should be dominating the conversation. He may not have Chavit's deep pockets, but just the same, he has the goods. And it's about time his campaign made sure every voter knows it. If Marcoleta's pambansang simangot cannot break the algorithm, maybe a good social media team can. Now, this is not an endorsement for Marcoleta. It is a pitch to his team. I'm CJ Hero for PGO.